theorize what the moon is, how it got to be where it is, and how it affects life here on Earth. Needless to say, the moon is essential to life here on Earth, right? It is mentioned all throughout history, across every civilization. Why? Because it's there. It has tantalized humankind with intrigue and mystery. Could life have once lived on the moon? And if so, is there structures left behind for us to find? The idea that the moon has always been there is one we take for granted. The adamant flat earth theorists, for example, would have us believe the moon is a giant hologram and the sun is a spotlight. So when we came across an article in the Guardian newspaper suggesting that China are actively developing an artificial moon to launch into orbit for the purposes of replacing streetlights, it fueled the imagination with critical thinking that could have almost sent the mind into overload. Wait till you hear this. Ambitious is an understatement, to say the least. But yes, China want to replace streetlights with an artificial moon. It might sound like something dreamt up in a far-fetched Marvel movie, but could it work? And are they for real? It is a great idea, but could there be a hint of sensationalism in this? The idea for this is an old idea, actually. The Scottish mathematician John Napier proposed such a device. In his book Secret Inventions of 1596, he published details of a giant mirror to burn enemy ships by focusing the sun's rays on them. In 1929, the German physicist Hermann Oberth further developed plans for a space station from which a 100-meter wide concave mirror could be used to reflect sunlight onto a concentrated point on the Earth. Later, during World War II, a group of German scientists at the German Army Artillery Proving Grounds at Hellersleben began to expand on Oberth's idea of creating a superweapon that could utilize the sun's energy. So it seems that these technologies are very real within human consciousness. Perhaps the Chinese are utilizing these previous attempts to launch such technologies in the modern era. A southwestern Chinese city plans to launch an illumination satellite in 2020. According to an account in the People's Daily, the artificial moon is designed to complement the moon at night, though it would be 8 times as bright as the moon. The dusk-like glow of the satellite would be able to light an area within a diameter of 65 miles, while the precise illumination range could be controlled within tens of meters, enabling it to replace streetlights. The vision was shared by Wang Chongfeng at a national mass innovation and entrepreneurship event held in Chengdu last week. Wu reportedly said testing had begun on the satellite years ago, and the technology had now evolved enough to allow for a launch in 2020. It is not clear whether the plans has the backing of the city of Chengdu or the Chinese government, though they are the main contractor for the Chinese space program. The People's Daily Report credited the idea to a French artist who imagined hanging a necklace made of mirrors above the Earth, which could reflect sunshine through the streets of Paris all year round. The likelihood of Chengdu's fake moon rising remains to be seen, but there are precedents for this moon age daydream rooted in science, though the technology and ambitions differ. In the 1990s, a team of Russian astronomers and engineers succeeded in launching a satellite into space to deflect sunlight back to Earth, briefly illuminating the nighttime hemisphere. The Namya experiment was to test the feasibility of illuminating points on Earth with light equivalent to that of several full moons. The New York Times said that at the time that several provide an overstatement, but the design was shown to be sound. A more ambitious attempt, Namya 2.5, was made in 1999, prompting preemptive concerns about light pollution, disrupting nocturnal animals, and astronomical observation. The People's Daily was quick to reassure those concerned about the fake moon's impact on nighttime wildlife. It cited Kang Weimin, director of the Institute of Optics, School of Aerospace, Harbin Institute of Technology, who explained that the lights of the satellite is similar to a dusk-like glow, so it should not affect animals' routines. Strange, right? We thought you might enjoy this piece of Chinese science fiction, whatever truth it may hold. You can let us know below what you are thinking, guys, and we will discuss this further.
When I was a little girl, I remember standing in my yard almost every night, staring into the sky at a small red dot called Mars. I thought about what I learned in science class, about the robots that humans sent to study and explore Mars. They were pretty limited in how far they could travel along its surface, but the information they sent back transformed that red dot into an entire world. They revealed evidence of water on Mars from long ago and found organic compounds, the chemical building blocks of life, which suggested that it had possibly once been the home of tiny creatures. The most recent robot they sent in the 2020s continued in the search for evidence of past life on Mars, but it also had another goal: to help pave the way for the first generation of humans to land on Mars. Now I am one of those humans. As we approach Mars, the idea of landing on its surface still feels like a distant dream. The orbits of Earth and Mars around the Sun allow for a trek to the planet about every 26 months or so, which means round-trip missions can take anywhere from 1 to 3 years. For this mission, we will arrive back to Earth just after a year and a half from launch. It's surreal to know we will be the first humans to arrive to this world, and that we will lay the foundation for future explorers. A few of us might even return back to Mars. I've never really liked the colonial language that often clutters conversations about space exploration. This is not manifest destiny. This is the universe, stretching its limbs a little further. We are knocking on our neighbor's door. One of the biggest questions is if there will be anyone there to answer. The atmosphere of Mars is 100 times thinner than Earth's. What's left of that atmosphere is 95% carbon dioxide. The average temperature of the planet is a frigid -55 degrees Celsius. If I let my imagination run wild, I can dream of encountering ancient fossils from another epoch that offer us a glimpse into what life was like on Mars when the lakes and rivers were abundant. If life does exist on Mars today, it's likely in the form of microbes that the previous missions have suggested. Tiny Martians scattered across the clay and soil on its surface. If we do discover life, we will know that the red point of light in our sky is living. How many other points of light might illuminate a kaleidoscope of life hidden in the sky? If there's life on Mars, I believe we should do nothing to disturb that life. But if we arrive at a barren world, we ourselves might learn to become its creatures, slowly breathing life into the planet until that breath becomes its very atmosphere. Will we have learned from the harm we've caused to the Earth? Sometime soon, I will find myself in a strange position. I will look into the night sky, but that red point of light that I love so much will have vanished. Instead, a blue point of light will glimmer above me, delicately suspended among countless other twinkling lights. And as I look at that blue point of light, I will be looking at the home of every human being in the universe. And I will hope that someone, perhaps even a few people, will be looking up at that red point of light in their sky. And in that moment, we will see each other across the solar system. And I will say, hello.
We meet in an hour of change and challenge, in a decade of hope and fear, in an age of both knowledge and ignorance. The greater our knowledge increases, the greater our ignorance unfolds. No man can fully grasp how far and how fast we have come. But condense, if you will, the 50,000 years of man's recorded history in a time span of but a half a century. Stated in these terms, we know very little about the first 40 years, except at the end of them, advanced man had learned to use the skins of animals to cover them. Then about 10 years ago, Under this standard, man emerged from his caves to construct other kinds of shelter. Only 5 years ago, man learned to write and use a cart with wheels. Christianity began less than 2 years ago. The printing press came this year. And then less than 2 months ago, during this whole 50-year span of human history, the steam engine provided a new source of power. Newton explored the meaning of gravity. Last month, electric lights and telephones and automobiles and airplanes became available. Only last week did we develop penicillin and television and nuclear power. This is a breathtaking pace, and such a pace cannot help but create new ills as it dispels old. So it is not surprising that some would have us stay where we are a little longer, to rest, to wait. If this capsule history of our progress teaches us anything, it is that man in his quest for knowledge and progress is determined and cannot be deterred.